Hey, Nicole Roberts Jones here, and welcome to this episode of the Meaningful Work Podcast, an opportunity where I hold the space for you to go after a life of meaning and fulfillment so that you can live and really live out, I should say, the assignment God created for you. So, with that said, I'm super excited about today's conversation because it's a conversation that I think just about at every dinner party over the holidays, y'all. I'm gonna keep it real. It's about every single person that comes up to me when I see them out in the street. They talk about the uncertainty we're living in right now. And so, if you're someone that has lost your job or looking for a job or you need a raise or anything in between, today's conversation is for you. So, listen. I looked up some statistics so we can really understand the landscape we're dealing in now. Workforce uncertainty in 2025 and 2026, just starting 2026, is at critical levels, with 67%, more than half, of employees feeling worse due to external conditions and 35% feeling negatively about their specific work situation. I can go on and on, but listen, mental health and productivity statistics say that worker pessimism, often stemming from economic and job security fears, has created a 128% greater risk of depression. Y'all heard that? 128% greater risk of depression. And in many cases, a 60% reduction in productivity, meaning people just showing up to work depressed and they can't even work. I don't know how many of you, when you're feeling depressed and you can't move, it's really hard to work. Couple more: job insecurity. In 2025, 65% of workers aged 26 to 43, I'm older than that, and 75% of those 18 to 25 reported job insecurity as a major stressor. I go on and on. So I'm excited to have this conversation with our expert today, and her name is Candace Cunningham. Now listen, Candace is a seasoned human resources leader with over 18 years of experience across both the public and private sectors. Candace has driven talent acquisition, employee relations, leadership development, and compliance initiatives, all with a passion for building inclusive workplaces and strengthening organizational culture. Known for connecting people, designing impactful HR programs, and delivering measurable results, she helps organizations and employees thrive. So if you're ready to thrive, get your pen and help me welcome Miss Candace Cunningham. Hey, girl.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for saying yes. So in full disclosure, I just met Candace like 5 minutes ago. And I'm just thankful that you said yes to be in this podcast. And let me tell you about how her commitment to employees is what made me so excited about having you here. So thank you for being here. And let's get this party started.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about when you think of leading with conviction, how this whole turbulent times we're in has changed the landscape of the workplace.
Yeah. Um, well, first and foremost, what I'll say about leading in uncertain times is that um, uncertainty is most definitely certain. So, yes, we are in some uncertain times, but we've been in uncertain times before. And I think oftentimes uncertainty gets a bad rap. And right now, based off of those statistics that you shared, I feel uncertain. But I think a lot of times uncertainty prepares us for the new. And so, what I've discovered and what I continue to discover as I'm leading people through uncertainty is that leadership is really about stewardship. It's about cultivating the people that I lead. It's about helping them discover the untapped talent, gifts, and resources that they have within that lie dormant in their belly. And so I think uncertainty gives us the opportunity to reflect on what we say as leaders when things are great, right? The culture, the values, the things that we point to as an organization that we say that are so key and important and important. You know, those things are easy to cheerlead when you're in good times, but it's really important to live out those things during the times where it is uncertain. It is tumultuous. And so, where chaos is all around, can you live out what you're talking about when things are good? So,
Mhm.
uncertain times for me has revealed who leaders really are. It hasn't changed leaders in the uncertain times. It has revealed us and what we're
That's so good.
capable of.
So good, so good. And listen, another thing I know about Candace is she's a God's girl. And as you were talking, what was coming up for me is, our faith doesn't get activated until we're in the face of uncertainty or fear, right? It's
Yes.
like that's when we have to lean on God the most and know that He's always in control. And so,
And so,
although, this is, I love that you said leadership is stewardship, right? So thinking about what stewardship is, y'all. Now, those of you that go to church, we hear steward, we think about money, right? We think about tithe, but think about if we're stewarding people well, if we're stewarding the people around us well, how that begins to come back to us, which is ultimately why we tithe. Hello, come on, somebody, right? Some of y'all will get that later, right? So with that, when everything feels turbulent, what three leadership behaviors do you see as the most grounding for building trust and security?
Yeah, that's such an excellent question, and I think there's tons of ways that leadership should show up, but we'll stick to three. I think first and foremost, visibility.
Mm,
Right, I have to know that I can rely on you as my leader, as someone who's guiding and directing me. And what I found is that good leaders, they often bring calm and stability to tumultuous situations. So even as you're going through, the tough waters and you're navigating that, those good leaders, they often bring that calm. Um, so visibility. I would also say transparency. You have to be able to share with your team to a degree, right? Because sometimes timing plays a part, and how much you can share plays a part. But I think to a degree you should be willing and upfront with your team about what's going on, because the decisions you're getting ready to make or that you're making in the C suite are going to impact them. And so they have to know that they're not in it alone, and you have to know that you're not in it alone. You have to be as transparent as possible and where you can be. And then I would also say humility, going right along with that transparency. You don't have all the answers. uh, be honest with your team in uncertain times, because we haven't faced this particular thing before. I don't have all the answers, but it's important that you assure them that you will make it through together, and figure it out together. And along with humility, I know we stick in the three, but I would also say
you can do four, you
clarity.
can five.
Would also say clarity, because in uncertain times, you need to be able to give small or interim directions just to keep your team motivated regarding what it is that you all are facing. So, um, you know, interim steps or small direction can definitely provide some clarity for your people, and absolutely that stability that they're looking for.
I love these four steps. So what's interesting is especially as you're saying clarity, it made me think of, when you are in a dark room and you try to walk around, you're gonna bump into everything. But when
Yeah.
the light is on, you can see and it's clear. And so if you think about that in terms of our climate, and you have a whole team that has bills to pay, that have kids in school, have mortgage, have car notes, have all the things. If they're walking around in the dark and not knowing what's happening, those are the people that show up depressed, that
Mm,
show up and they lack productivity. You're not letting them into the conversation. I have found, even dare I say, with my own team, because listen, if I'm transparent, my budget got cut. And I was
mm,
honest. Our budget got cut, but I'm gonna find a whole nother way to get the money we need. So I don't want you guys to worry. And I've shared with them strategies I'm using along the way. And
mhm.
and the reason I bring that up is because the thing I've learned, and I want you to share a little bit about this, is it's a fine it's almost like a tightrope to how transparent you are so that you don't want to be too transparent with people like, oh, I'm about to lose my job, let me go find another job. And then you don't want to not say anything because then they're walking around in the dark. So how do you find that healthy balance to share with people enough to keep them motivated, but not so much that it makes them run?
Yeah, that is the tightrope walk. It is definitely knowing what's appropriate. What level of information should I be sharing with my team? Um, Enough information where they feel stable, but enough information that they also know that there is a direction forward. And I would also say that you don't have to have all the answers. Again, to my point, you want to definitely make sure that you're aware yourself that you don't have all of the answers, but sharing with your team, I don't have all the answers. I don't have all of the ins and outs to this particular situation, but this is the information that I do know. What's key in having these conversations are your relationships. What relationships have you established with your team prior to the turbulence that's
Mhm.
going to help you as you're working through these uncharted territories, right? You've got to build those relationships because people don't listen to your words. They listen to your behaviors. They want to see your repeated behaviors, and that's going to make me trust that you can, in fact, lead me, that you're being honest with me, that you're being as transparent as you can be. Um, those relationships are the currency that's going to get you through those tough times. And you have to be willing to also say, there is some information that I have, but at this point, I can't share it with you. I'm not at, liberty to share that information with you. And because you've established those relationships prior to the turbulence, they're going to be able to trust you because they're going to say, I know that Candace has my back. I know that she's going to make sure that I know all the information that I need to know to make good decisions, not only for myself, but for the team.
So good. By the way, if you guys see me looking down, I'm taking notes too. So just know I'm learning just like y'all. So I love that you said that because it made me think of a couple things. One, um, everything you just said goes back to what she said about being transparent, y'all. Transparency is huge. But here's what's coming up in my mind is this whole conversation around core values. I think
Mm.
oftentimes people are afraid to be their authentic self at work, especially as a leader, right? Especially when you're a young leader. Like I remember when I got my first leadership position, I was 28. Probably had no business being a leader at 28, but here I was, an advanced degree, and I got the job. And so, really learning how to navigate who I am and how I need to be, and knowing the difference. Have you seen people have conflict with that?
I've seen people have conflict with that. I've even had conflict with that. The site. I'm the type of person that I say that what you get is what you see is what you get. Um, but there have been situations in my career and even in my personal life where my core values are questioned. They're put into a question to myself. I have to say, okay, is this really a core value of mine? And we have to realize that your values should be center to you. So if something
Mhm.
is, coming into question that's going to compromise those core values, then you need to really be asking yourself, okay, is this the direction that I need to be going? But I think it's important to surround yourself with people who think differently than you, who have different perspective, different life experiences, who have different ways and ideas of doing things. If they want to revisit a process, or if they want to, recreate an SOP, just for example, keeping it in the work realm. If there is something that they want to do, and there's a different way of going about it, that's not something that should shake your core values, because I think there is power in diversity. I think there's power and strength in, getting with people who have different perspectives than you. But anything that's, shaking your core values, you definitely have to question, is this the right direction for me? And and what I should be doing. Maybe it's right for someone else. It doesn't mean that it's right for me. Um, but having flexibility and core values, I think, definitely has some interplay. Um, but I think from a leader standpoint, I have to be willing for my team to share those ideas with me. I'm a big proponent of the best ideas win the day, not just
Mm,
my ideas because I'm the leader, right? And I would even say that if you have people who are always agreeing with you and always see it your way, then you've hired yes men and yes women. You have probably mishandled your people so that they're just going along to get along. I want people to be free to give me their ideas, share with me when they disagree, or when they see it differently. That's when innovation is happening.
mm,
If there's no innovation, then honestly, it's the same old, and it's boring.
right.
So values are so important. They're core to your center, um, and those should never be in question. And if they are, definitely you got to question if this is the right direction for you. But diversity of thought, inclusivity of those thoughts are so important to have on a team, even in your personal life. I want friends to tell me when they don't agree with me. I want
Mhm.
friends to tell me when I've got it wrong, or think about it this way, Candace. I think that's hugely important to your growth and your personal development.
So good, so good. And what's interesting to me is I often say when, and this is about dating, but this applies to work too, y'all. When you're in a dating relationship and something seems off and they're bumping up against your values, that's because they are. Now, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean everybody needs to be like you, but you've got to be clear on, like, for instance, here's a great example. My husband is a neat freak. Now, I'm not saying I'm messy because I'm not. According to him, I am, but I'm not. I clean up after myself, but I clean up in piles because I like to know where stuff is, especially in my office because I'm working on stuff. I have piles, right? And he thinks that's messy. So for him, there's a whole orderly value that he has. My orderliness is a systems thing. You see the difference, y'all. Orderly for him is everything is gone. Me, it's a system. I have a system set. So you've got to be clear when the values are bumping up against because maybe you're seeing it differently and you can grow from it. And so we laugh at it now. We first got married and living together. Ooh, it was a hot. Don't let me start y'all on how he was being with my piles, right? But again, sometimes I'm working on multiple projects at a time. It helps me, number one, remember that I got to do it. And number two, it helps me not confuse work with each other. Have my system. So how do you find this whole my nose? Let me tell you guys, if you are here, my allergies are acting up today, so I'm scratching my nose. So I'm apologizing for my mother that might be watching this, who's going to text me and tell me to stop scratching my nose. So, with all of that said, I love this whole value centered because here's the other thing: as you're talking about being transparent and about being clear, if you're not transparent and clear with your own self, how do you expect your team to receive you as transparent and clear?
Mm-hmm.
So here's a little homework from Candace conversation. Have a conversation with your own self of where you're not being transparent or you're uncomfortable to be transparent, where you're not being clear or where you lack clarity. So you need to get clarity so you can be clear with your team. So to give you guys an example, because I don't like to tell you stuff and not give you an example. I remember again that first job I had at 28. I probably was 30 by the time this happened, but I'm going to tell you, I'm the deputy director of a training division. And one of my team keeps crying. I mean, she comes in my office, my one-on-one meetings, crying every week. So every week I'd say, go finish and come back when you're done. I'm not dealing with that because I'm at work, right? And so what I realized is that I wasn't allowing her the space to get through what she was feeling. I'm someone that at work, I'm professional. That's my whole thing. Come in, let's work toward. But her personal life was bumping up against her professional life. And as someone that's trained as a social worker, the nerve of me to even tell her to go cry and come back. So I remember the day I pulled out a Kleenex box, I put it in on a desk and said, "Tell me what's coming up for you." And what was coming up for her is that she thought everyone else was outshining her as a trainer, when she was my best trainer. Had I not taken that time, let me tell you, after I helped her work through that, now mind you, I had to work through my own stuff because I was thinking, I'm at work. Why am I doing this? We are not in a counseling session, but I was. When I allowed her to be transparent, and then I was transparent with why I kept sending her out, and I told her the truth. Listen, let me tell you why every week, right? We not only built our own relationship, she began to say, oh, now I see why it was bothering you. And I began to help her work through her emotions so much so that she became literally my best trainer. And she got offered another job. Now I didn't do all of that to help her get another job. But the point I'm making is when you take the time to investigate when values don't feel aligned, when things feel off. Sometimes it might just take a little tweak so that you're meeting that person where they are. So, with that said, another question for you, Candace. This is good, y'all. This is good. Look, I got a page of notes already. How do you work with leaders? And this is a good one after our conversation here. Who are afraid, leaders who are afraid to make decisions, like they're afraid of either they're going to get pushback or they're going to make the wrong decision. Like with that particular employee, if I would have been afraid to make the wrong decision, I have story after story after story about me having to sit in fear around a decision and having to make it. So, what advice do you give leaders that are in that place where they're not sure, they're afraid, they're on that teeter totter of decision making?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love that. I think you have to build an environment where failing forward is normalized,
Ooh,
right?
wait, hold on, because you just said a whole nugget. Look, you have to create an environment. I want to make sure y'all heard that. I'm about to write it, but I want to make sure you heard it before I write it. You have to create an environment where failing forward, not failing backward, failing forward is normalized. Sorry, girl, that was good. I had to make sure they heard it. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Failing forward. And I think when we think about failure, we always have the negative, connotation that goes with it. But failure is a part of success. And we have to make sure that our teams feel comfortable enough where, failure is more of just gathering data, right? It's gathering data about, okay, this didn't work. Okay, now I can move on to the next thing, until I find out what does work. And that will eventually lead me to success. It's almost like, when a kid is taking what is it, their training wheels off of the bike,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
They're nervous about that. And guess what? Those first few, turns of the wheel, they might get a little unstable and they may even fall and skin their knee.
Yeah.
But what do when we skin our knee? We go in the house, we put, we clean it up, put a little peroxide on it, some Vaseline, put a Band-Aid on it, and then we say, okay, get back out there and ride your bike. Because if we don't encourage people to get back out there after they failed, then guess what? They will be too scared to do it again. I don't want to
Mhm.
experience that again. I don't want to experience, failure and what comes with that. So we have to create an environment where failing is normal, because then that means we're a team that's working toward creating more. We're creating ideas. We're coming up with new ways of doing things. We have to normalize people failing, and we have to be upfront with the fact that we fail too as leaders. I think oftentimes we put on this mask that we are so perfect. And we have to just be honest that we don't have it all figured out. No one does. Lead with your humanity, and allow people to fail so that they can, so that they can do more. I would also say that confidence comes later.
Mm.
Courage is what comes first.
Ooh, that's good.
So sometimes you have to do things scared and continue to do it scared until you build your confidence. Confidence is not your first companion. Courage always is the way. That's the only way that you're going to find your way and find out if I'm good at this, or if this is something that, I should leave for someone else to do. But you have to be willing to try, because if you're not willing to take the shot, then you have already made a decision to stay in a failing space. So courage comes before confidence, and we have to be willing to take those steps and encourage our team to do the same.
So good. So good. Now, those of you that have been around me, you hear me say all the time that your what, how do I say? Your conviction and your courage. Listen, sometimes you're going to have courage, and sometimes your conviction is going to have to lead you. The thing I think is interesting is that when we are really afraid, is because we're doing something we've never done. So, of course, when you talk about fail forward, love that too. Failing forward, right? You're going to fail, especially when you're doing something you've never done before, but that's where you learn a lesson. You can tweak it and then do it better, right? And so I think so often as we get older, like in your 20s, y'all, now I don't know about y'all, but I'm a whole long way away from 20. In your 20s, you have no inhibition. So you're just doing everything. Just, I can do it all, right? And as we get older, been through some things, so it makes it a little harder. But if we could just find that courage, not be was it fearless? There's no such thing as being fearless. Let me tell y'all right now. I can throw that out. You can be fearful and do it afraid. And then I love that you said confidence comes later. And confidence comes after you've perfected it, but you've got to go through some things to mess it up, to learn a lesson, to grow, and to shift. So good, so good.
Absolutely.
So, believe it or not, we're coming up on the end of this conversation. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to share?
Um, I like that you mentioned earlier the relationship between faith and uncertainty. I would say that my faith anchors me. Period. It's like MasterCard. I can't leave home without it. So and it's probably that way because my mom is an evangelist, so I'm a PK, and this is the way that I was raised. But I have faced things in my life that have come up not only in the workplace but in my personal life that have made me uncertain. One scripture that we've been studying in my household here is 2 Samuel 22 and 34, and it talks about how he makes my feet of the
Mm,
deer. He causes
mm,
me to stand on the heights. And so, what that scripture is talking about is no matter the adversity that I face, no matter life's troubles or the obstacles that I'm going to need to navigate, He's going to stand me in a secure place. Um, and it's not only going to make me secure, but it's also going to allow me to overcome that adversity, and it's going to allow me to grow spiritually.
mm.
So I'm a true believer in if God brought me to it, He's going to bring me through it. So
Amen.
um, uncertainty, again, like I said, it sometimes gets that bad rap, but sometimes uncertainty is taking us to higher heights. And us as humans, we want to be able to figure it out and what we're doing next and have everything planned out, but that's not the way life works. We're stretching our muscle, we're working that muscle, so that we can build and rely on our faith even more.
That's so good. That's so good. I'm glad you ended with that because, I said this earlier, your faith doesn't get activated until you're in the face of fear. And I believe, Candace, that God allows uncertainty to happen. So we have to trust him, that we don't
Absolutely.
rely on our own selves because we can't figure it out. Finally, there's some place that Nicole can't figure it out. Why? Because God has put me here so I can rely on him and not rely on my degree, the people I know, the calls I can make, the things I can do. I need to sit still and trust me. I'm in that place right now. I'm out in my own self. That God is like, okay, sit your butt down over there and let me do this. And this is the hardest thing at this juncture of my whole career is to sit and trust God. And so here's what I want to challenge all of you. We are in uncertain times. And if you're in an uncertain place, ask God, what lesson do you want me to learn here? What he's doing is taking you to that higher place. If you can learn the lesson so he can grow you into your next. So,
Mm.
Candace, thank you for showing us what it looks like to grow into our next, for holding a space for us to be the highest and best version of who God has created us to be. Thank you for teaching teams, for all the things you do. I appreciate you. And most of all, thank you for joining us today and sharing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Ooh, such a great conversation. By the way, I edit my own self, y'all. So I said my own quote wrong. I was like, something's wrong. It's comfort. Your comfort and your conviction can never coexist. If God is calling you to something next level, you will be uncomfortable. So stop trying to fight comfort or easy. That's what uncertainty is. It's uncomfortable. So, with that, as I ask you at the end of every episode, I want you to do three things. Number one, share the takeaways you got from this episode. Share how you're going to implement, how Candace might have stepped on your toes. I want to know all the things. Number one. Number two, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to this podcast. Why? So you're notified when we have new episodes. And then, last but not least, share. Share this episode, share it in social media, or you can text, grab the link and share, because you never know, again, who in your tribe, who in your community, who in your family this conversation will bless. So thank you again for joining us for this episode, and I'll see you next time for the Meaningful Work Podcast. Bye, y'all.